Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Colwood for YouTube, and I'm here to give my review for the movie Capone, starring Tom Hardy. Close my Microsoft words here. You know, I've watched a lot of gangster movies, mobster movies, whatever you want to call them, in my life. Um, and when I watch them, I'm usually entertained. They do tell good stories. But when I watch these, especially when it's based on a real, because most of these you watch are based on real events or real people, like Al Capone. I want to learn something, and I really didn't learn anything I didn't already know. I knew this movie Capone. It talks about the last year of Capone's life, where Capone was riddled with dementia. His brain was racked with it. I already knew that. That has been actually one of the most well documented moments of his life is the last year, because what Capone tells people who may not have known, and that I did know because I learned about this in the fifth grade, he was being wiretapped because they were looking for 10 million missing dollars. They'd wiretapped his house, his phones. And why were they looking for this 10 million missing dollars? So they could collect it. So they could collect it because here's a guy who did not pay taxes, who did not file for tax return. It's crazy to think that of all the murders Capone supposedly did or may not be linked to, because that's the thing you gotta understand. Back in Capone's time, you actually had to prove guilt. You had to have witnesses. You had to prove someone guilty. Where nowadays you can somebody more has to prove their innocence than their guilt, which is insane. You know, to me, did the government make a mistake by tapping Capone's stuff and thinking he was going to lead them to this $10 million, whether it was there or not? Yeah, I mean, to me, it just told me something I already knew. This was a waste of the taxpayers' money to investigate somebody who may or may not have 10 million missing dollars just because he's saying about it across recordings. He's saying about it while he had dementia. His mind was racked with dementia. So I mean, again, they did not get the guy on murder. Capone didn't go to jail for murder. Al Capone went to jail for 10 years for income tax evasion. So think about it. If this son of a bitch pays his taxes, he never gets caught. The insanity of the justice system, right? Here's a guy who's, again, you have to prove he murdered him, but his name alone has been linked to certain murders, or not, I shouldn't say linked, but they believe Capone did them, okay? That's what I'll say. And obviously the most infamous one, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which I'm going to leave a link about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in the description box. If you want to go watch a movie about it, there is a movie called The St. Valentine's Day Massacre where Jason Robards plays Al Capone. A really good movie, too. Will you learn anything from it? You'll learn how fucking violent Capone was. That's the one thing I'll say. The one thing this movie does do well is tell you about his violent lifestyle, how violent he was in his early years. It does hint to that. And they do mention the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Again, it's one of the most infamous killings that Capone ever did or was linked to, because two people were dressed as cops and they lined these dudes up against the wall, and someone unloaded on them with some guns. So To me, what do I give this movie? I give it a 6. It was okay. Again, when I watch these type of movies, I want to learn something, and I just did not learn anything new. I knew all this already, you know. Now, for the people who didn't know that, again, yeah, you could go watch this movie and learn something. It just makes you sort of sit back and shake your head at the government for wasting the taxpayers' money, because anybody in their right mind thinking you're going to get anything credible out of somebody that's brain that is racked with dementia is ludicrous. It really is. Think about this. They're literally listening to him to try to find $10 million that he may have hit or may not have hit. They're not sure. They're making that accusation to listen to him, and they're allowing him to listen to him because here's a guy that was finally caught at committing a crime. He was caught for income tax evasion, not murder, which he did do. Income tax evasion. God. But it's how Elliot Ness became famous, right? So I just think, again, it's ludicrous to think you were ever going to get a legit answer from a guy that was racked with dementia. Not that they didn't dig up stuff anyway after he died to look for this money, and it was never found. If it was ever there at all, they can't even answer you that. Because again, they're listening to a guy that's brain is racked with dementia, and it is literally, again, it's insane that our government would be that foolish to do something like that. And you might say, well, at least they made an attempt. Okay, yeah, true, they did make an attempt, but in the same sense, this is what got admitted later, that when they had listened to the recordings, they knew Capone was talking to himself. They knew Capone was out of his mind. Yet they're listening to him and taking some of his words as credible. Oh, he's talking about missing $10 million to money. He's got fucking dementia. He could, like, seriously. But go check out the movie Capone. It's okay. Again, Tom Hardy's a great actor. I'll take nothing away from him. I just wish they would have. There's things that they could have done here. I do hope eventually they remake the St. Valentine's Day Massacre story and tell that properly. I would just cast Hardy to play him. Hardy could look the part as a younger Capone. They showed him in a mirror reflection. I love the effect of him younger, which I thought was cool. But I do think that story needs told again, the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. It's one of the most infamous killings in Capone's gangster career. And depending on who you believe with the whole New York thing, if you listen to Capone, he was kicked out of New York by the other mobsters for being too violent and aggressive. If you listen to the other mobsters, Capone left. It's whoever you want to believe on that shit. I tend I tend to believe Capone a little more, considering what happened in Chicago under his reign. Yeah. So I'm going to put a link in the description box for the St. Valentine's Day Massacre thing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I finally got this fixed, hopefully, with my YouTube. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and hey, I'll see you guys tomorrow night as I bring John Philip Betancourt on to discuss his Dark Shadows blog.